Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. Rate the show 5 stars out there everywhere you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports. Happy February, everyone. Happy Pro Bowl. And PayPal, how are you feeling on this wonderful Groundhog's Day?
Doing pretty good. Hey, I'm pretty mad at what's his name is like Nick or something. They gave him a name. I'm so mad at him. You know, he saw his shadow, so apparently we're getting 6 more weeks of winter. So screw him.
Puxatony Phil, Nick the Nick. So,
Yeah, Phil, yeah.
That's his new name. There is like I saw this. There's like Staten Island Tommy or something where it's like a Puxatony Phil groundhog, and
Okay.
it's like from Staten Island. And yeah, that one said that it's going to be less winter. But I was like, why are there multiple groundhogs out there? I guess it's a big thing. So my wife and I were celebrating every random holiday. So we got up, we watched it. It was lame, but it was fun at the same time to just kind of celebrate all those random holidays. But
That's
also,
fun.
just so everyone knows out there, you can go out to betus.com, link in the description, and use promo code Unbearable for 125% back on your first deposit. So PayPal, we have an awesome show here today. We are breaking down the Reese's Senior Bowl. It's going on this weekend. And we were talking about this pre-show. There are so many good players. So what we're going to be going through is I put together some graphics. So even for those that are listening, go out to the YouTube if you want to just see how good some of these players are out there. We're going to break down our favorite players. I have 5, you have 5, and we'll also kind of mention, we'll definitely go over the limit, but we'll mention some people that we've heard that have been doing well and impressing in practice. And also, the big question, who are the Bears looking at since Luke Getsy is going to be the coach of the American team, I believe?
Yeah, I'm excited for the Senior Bowl. This is my first time ever going to be watching it. Like, I've never watched it in the past, and I think for people that haven't watched it, like, I kind of got motivation to watch it after seeing that we drafted 4 people that were in the Senior Bowl from last year, and they were all, it was like Braxton Jones, it was
Dominique Robinson,
like all these notable players on our team now. So it's like, it's definitely important, and it seems like that's kind of who they'll be attacking in the draft again. So
for real,
keep an eye out for it.
We know what we want, and I think especially with having Luke Getsy there, there's going to be people on the American side that are just going to be coming out, and I'm looking at the American side to be like, who could I see Luke Getsy being like, we got to get this guy. We have to add this guy. Some of the wide receivers, some of the talent on that American side, there's a lot to go through. But PayPal, we got to start out. We're going through our standard order, except there's a little bit of a twist at the end on the defensive side. So normally this is where we go through quarterbacks, but honestly, all the quarterbacks so far have not been looking too great. Still, when you're watching the game, it's easy to watch the quarterback. So there's really not one. They're late round quarterbacks. So whoever shines for you is someone that the Bears could potentially be looking at later on in the draft as a potential backup. But let's go to the main position, the main first position, the running back position. As we know, the Bears may or may not be re-signing David Montgomery. So this running back position is pretty important, headlined by Kenny McIntosh, who is the consensus 92nd best player on the draft board. But also some other cool names out there. Chase Brown and also Tyjae Spears has been the big riser in this practice. He's out of Tulane, so we could be having another Tulane running back. Right now, he's on the board at 149, so a later round guy, but definitely someone to watch out for. But PayPal and I, we had our list, And
Yep.
unfortunately, both of the guys that we had on our list, now it's just a pour one out because this guy got injured. That's one ROSCHON Johnson out of University of Texas. He broke a bone in his hand, and he's unfortunately not going to be playing in the game. But we both had him on our list, even though he's not playing. Still wanted to at least talk about him. Projected to go in the fourth. Hey, pal, what did you like about him?
Yeah, for the first thing, I mean, he's a physical runner, and just he looked great whenever Bijan, I always F up his name, but Bijan Johnson was not out there. And that's what I think. You see him as a fourth round pick, but I really think his draft stock falls because he is a backup, behind arguably, probably the better running back of the draft. So yeah, to get a guy with this talent, and his talent was kind of overshadowed with this other running back, I think he could be a great deal. And now with this broken hand and not playing in the Senior Bowl, I'm really interested to see like other people's draft stock might rise and his might fall just because he didn't play in this game. So even if he's not playing this game, just kind of like watch out for him because he put some stuff on his tape that I love.
Yeah, I agree too. And that's a really good point. Maybe he's moving down draft boards. I love him at 6'2", 225.
Oh yeah.
He's got speed. His big weakness is his lateral agility. Also, key thing here, what I like is the running backs that are on the American team with Luke Getsy, ROSCHON Johnson. So he's able to talk with them. Another thing about ROSCHON Johnson that I love, got a red star at the Senior Bowl for just being a great person off the field. This wasn't a pity award because he broke his hand. They're like, legit, this guy is just a genuinely amazing person to be around. He's a former quarterback that transferred over as a running back. So he's only been a running back for like a couple of years. So you know that there's a lot of tread on these tires. Really want to see him out there. But yeah, on the American side, ROSCHON Johnson, Chase Brown, the running back out of Illinois, and also the running back out of Tulane is also on the American side. So, ladies and gents, there's some good running backs that we could be looking at. Unfortunately, ROSCHON Johnson not going to be playing. So got to pour one out for all ROSCHON. Hopefully we could get him. I really like him. He's one of my draft steals later on. But now PayPal.
Yeah, I think yep. I mean too, again with him, like it'd be nice, we kind of always talk about the thunder and lightning type of thing. And clearly Herbert, he's the lightning, he's could be that fast burst guy. And ROSCHON Johnson seems like that thunder where he's gonna punish the defense. And it just seems questionable with Dave Montgomery. So, and like we love it, Brad, not having to pay our running backs. So it'd be awesome if we could get him late round.
Gotta love it. Donald's also out there saying he loves Gibbs. Gibbs won't be in this game, but Gibbs is, when you talk about thunder and lightning, Gibbs to me out of Alabama is that lightning, and he is blazing fast. But yeah, also Donald likes McIntosh, another player that's going to be in this in the Senior Bowl. Definitely someone to be on the lookout for, because I've seen McIntosh super high, like consensus super, super high, but also I've seen him ridiculously low. That's the running back out of Georgia. Definitely someone to be on the lookout for, to see how does he play when he's not at Georgia, because maybe he silences the haters or proves them correct. So it's going to be crazy. So let's go over to the wide receivers and PayPal. There's so many wide receivers out here. It's absolutely nuts. There's a lot of really good second and third round talents out here. Now, some of them that have been popping this week, Nathaniel Dell. He is the guy that's making headlines because he's like 160 pounds, out of the wide receiver out of Houston. Very small, quick, fast in the slot, and could be somebody that goes in the third. It's going to be really interesting to see him. You'll definitely see him. He's fast. He's super small. Another person who's kind of turning heads is Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. overall ranked 147th from the consensus board. So it's someone who is climbing up. But PayPal and I, we got a couple other people on our watch list that we're really watching. I'm kind of cherry picking here. I'm going with the top receiver prospect that's at this game, and that is who's ranked 49th overall. That's Rashee Rice. Now, Rashee Rice, 6'3", 206 out of SMU. He, big body guy. Reminds me of Cortland Sutton, projected to go in the second round. Biggest strength, ball skills. He can catch really well. He has some good speed, but his biggest weakness is he's your classic SMU wide receiver. Very limited route tree, gets a lot of production, 96 receptions, 1,355 yards, 10 touchdowns last year. Very good. But on tape, when he ran his limited route tree, ran very crisp routes, has some good quickness to it, just doesn't have the speed to kind of take the top off the defense. And he blocks really, really well. But I've heard some stuff out of Mobile that he hasn't been looking as good as a lot of people expected, especially out of a second rounder. So that's where it seems like his draft stock is falling when you kind of thought that it would be rising. I want to see how he performs out there, and can he show that he's a better wide receiver than what the rumors are coming out with.
Yeah, I love him too. He was like, I think his like alpha mentality, I've been hearing a lot about that, like, is a very important thing when you're a wide receiver. You want a guy that you can just throw to all the time and be that number one. And I think that alpha mentality is like what you see in like a Jamar Chase, what you see in a Justin Jefferson, what you see in these number one receivers. And that's what we really need. So I love looking at these higher round, these first, second round, third round wide receiver picks, because this is what this team ultimately needs. And it seems like he checks all the boxes. It's just, that limited, routes, but it seems that's kind of like how every, receiver out of college is going to be, except for, like Alabama receivers or something.
It is, but it's also one of like the biggest factors that like factor against them, right? Because usually the people with the complete route tree definitely produce better. Also, I got to fact check myself. I totally had the national team up. ROSCHON Johnson is not on the American team. He's on the national team. Same thing with Chase Brown. So, but Rashee Rice is on the American squad. So Luke Getsy will be having an up close and personal view of him. Same thing with that Nathaniel Dell out of Houston. But PayPal, let's go over to one of your players, Mr. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee, 6'3", 215. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, very physical guy. I mean, 6'3", 215. I mean, it's crazy. It's like only a 12-pound difference, but he just plays that much more physical than, Rashee Rice. And what I love about him, he's that big body guy. He's going to get up and catch the ball and deep ball threat. And the thing I'm really looking forward to seeing in this game is kind of his speed. Seeing if if his game speed is like fast, and because he kind of almost looks like a tight end out there, like a fast tight end. So that's what I'll really be looking out for. But this man's big. He has amazing hands, and could be a potential receiver that this team could get. And also another thing I like about him is he played with Velas, in Tennessee. So, great stuff.
I also am not seeing Cedric Tillman anymore on the Senior Bowl. So
really?
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious why he's not actually there. So one of your, it's out there. It says Cedric Tillman. So we'll look. He's not on the roster though. It doesn't appear so. So maybe your boy won't actually be out there. I'm looking. Maybe he dropped out. But be on the lookout for a Clemson helmet right now.
Yeah.
Because it looks like he might have dropped out. So PayPal, your boy can be Nathaniel Dell then. If Cedric Tillman's not playing, but still somebody to at least look out there.
Mm-hmm.
So then also Donald's saying too, Jalen Hyatt, he's not going to be at the Senior Bowl like Donald's saying, but he's also a speedster to keep on your radar, especially for the combine. Just can take the top off the defense. But let's go over to my other player. Now, I know Donald in the comments saying some stuff about some Iowa State stuff. There's definitely someone that he mentioned that I really like, but I'm going with another Iowa State player that I'm going to be watching at the wide receiver position, and that's Xavier Hutchinson, wide receiver, Iowa State, 6'3", 205. My comp for him is Michael Pittman Jr. Because Michael Pittman coming out never really did a lot of super flashy things, but every now and again would, but it doesn't seem like he would do it at the NFL level. At his last year at Iowa State, 107 receptions, 1,171 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. He's projected to go in the 3rd round, and he's got fantastic ball skills. He doesn't seem like he's 6'3", but he can catch the ball really well, and everything he does, super clean, like what Michael Pittman Jr. does. That's why I really like him. I want to see what he does against this talent, because some people have him as literally like a number 1 wide receiver, and others are like, yeah, this isn't going to translate. This is a big week. This is a big game for him to show that even though he doesn't have the top end explosiveness and speed, that him being so fluid in his routes, fluid in the way that he plays, that he can be an NFL player.
Yeah, he's good. And that's if fundamentals, I think, is the one thing that always translates into the NFL. And that's when I always see, like, good the pros of a player. If you see good fundamentals, that's a really good positive. But when you see like athleticism, it's always that added kind of benefit, I would say. So he's got both.
Donald likes him, saying future Pro Bowler out there. And J-Rock also saying Bears need a slot receiver. Smith and Jigba would be the best option. Smith and Jigba is still he's actually my wide receiver 1. Believe it or not, I love Smith and Jigba's tape. The big question is his injury, but yeah, he won't be playing in the game. But let's go over to the tight ends. Tight ends is going to be a very interesting position for the Bears, definitely, because for the Bears, we have Kmet. Kmet's looking good, but do we want to go with more of a 2 tight end set? Do we want to really try and open it up, like get maybe more of a true receiver? There's some good tight ends out here. Personally, one of my favorites is Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. I love the way that he plays. Just a phenomenal receiver. Reminds me a lot of the guy out of Miami. What he was able to do for the Dolphins and has been able to do. Just very athletic, very good receiver. But the person I'm looking out for at this tight end position is Luke Musgrave, tight end, Oregon State, senior, 6'6", 250. My comp for him is Dallas Goedert, projected to go in the 2nd round. His biggest strength is his athleticism. At this big size, he's got the wheels, he's got the size, but his biggest weakness is his production. Right? Like, he's projected to go in the 2nd round, and he only played 2 games last year before he got injured. He's the best athlete all around at the tight end position. Michael Mayer is just the true good tight end, but Luke Musgrave, overall 52 on the overall board. Dalton Kincaid is 45 on the overall board. But in 2021, he only had 300 yards. This guy does not have production, but people said, you see this guy walk around and you go, yep, there he is. There's Luke Musgrave. Just an Adonis, a big dude, a human being that you can just admire. And that's what I want to see. How good is he? And can he actually play? A lot of people are saying he's already kind of taken the top off some defenses. So what can he do? How can he perform? But PayPal, have you looked at much of Luke Musgrave? There's not a lot of tape on him.
No, yeah, I really haven't looked at the tight ends for me. I was not really looking at them just because I think we're kind of 50-50 with our 2nd round tight ends. Cole Kmet almost seemed like he was going to be a bust. And then he finally broke out this year. And then, Adam Shaheen, that was kind of that almost like the opposite of Luke Musgrave, kind of where he had a bunch of production, but it was in a small school. So it was kind of like, is it going to translate and stuff? So I'm ecstatic to watch him. Even if we're not going to draft that high for a tight end. I think that's if we want to really use a second round for a tight end.
But. And I'm looking at some of the tight ends on the American roster. I definitely have the American roster up this time too. Luke Musgrave is on the Bears team, or not Bears team, the American team.
The American team, yeah.
But also someone that they also have that's interesting is Cameron Latu out of Alabama. Overall ranked 123, is a pretty good tight end. Just didn't get a lot of production out of Alabama. It's definitely someone to take a look at that you can get later on. It'd be really, really interesting to see. But
yeah, he looked good when I've watched him in the most recent Alabama game. He seemed like that was kind of the go-to, like if something was not going wrong, when things were going wrong with the offense, give it to Latu.
And J-Rock just gave a very honest thing, because I feel the same way too. And he said, hard to get a good look at wide receiver and tight end, weak quarterback play at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, this is one of the years that the quarterback play has been really weak. And normally, I think that Will Levis was supposed to be there, but opted out. And also, too, during the game, it's difficult to see as well because they don't have the chemistry out there. So it's a lot of times it's the one-on-ones. That's where when we do our winners on Sunday, we'll also bring up people that won in practice as well, just to see who's kind of running, who's winning those one-on-ones in those team drills. But yeah, that's a very, very good point that J-Rock made, because yeah, if you don't see someone make a catch, doesn't mean they stink. Just means that the quarterback might stink, or might be like, yeah, I'm only going to the first read on this look. But let's go over to offensive tackles, because this offensive tackle class is insane. It is like, if you don't know who to watch, just watch offensive tackles, because every offensive tackle, I swear, has like a second or third round grade this year. It's absolutely nuts. Starting with DeJuan Jones, Cody Mauch out of North Dakota State is ranked 53 overall. Jalen Duncan, the tackle out of Maryland, 55. Darnell Wright, 57 consensus. Blake Freeland, 73. Tyler Stern out of Alabama, 81. Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse, 69. Like, there's so many good tackles. Like, just watch them out there. But PayPal, I know that there's one that you have your eye on.
Yeah, and you kind of sense the kind of I really want to offensive tackle, after seeing how our right tackle spot was just kind of, Reeve, Borum, all that stuff. So I put DeJuan Jones. Like, let's spend some capital on getting a good tackle. And a guy that played with Justin Fields, or a guy at Ohio State. So I really, he's massive. I mean, he's 6'8", 375. He's like the 100th percentile for everything. Like, he's got the longest arms. He's got the, just everything. The biggest hands, all that stuff. So you don't have to worry about his athleticism, but he has. They were saying, and the thing too with our tackles, like Borum, his big problem was the bull rush, and this guy, that was his best attribute, was he really plants his feet, does not allow for a bull rush. But we have to kind of look out. The only negative that I was kind of hearing is, like, in the run game, he kind of has an awkward balance and really doesn't use leverage as well as he should. But he's massive. So does he really have to use leverage? Not really.
Yeah. I like, I'm baffled as to why he's projected in this second round.
Right?
I think that this is like an Orlando Brown thing again, where Orlando Brown, to me, Orlando Brown Jr., when he came out of Oklahoma, I did not like him. He had terrible feet. DeJuan Jones does not have terrible feet. Like, that's his biggest weakness, but it's not awful. And this dude is 6'8", like a legit
He's
6'8".
massive.
And like, can you imagine him? He's also a true right tackle. A lot of them play left tackle. He's a true right tackle. The only bad part is he's probably going in the first. Right now, at the time that we're recording this, he's 41st overall on the big board, but moved up 3 spots. I could just see him going at the top and being maybe in the 20s. But this is where we're like, Chase Claypool, come on. Like imagine this guy just clearing him and Tevin Jenkins on the right-hand side. Woo!
Yeah.
Good luck trying to stop this run game. Like, who needs Justin Fields to pass when you have DeJuan Jones and Tevin Jenkins on one side? Seriously.
And that's the thing is like getting this guy and just watching him in this game is going to be, I think it's going to be so much fun. And he's going to be so easy to spot. This just huge guy on the right side of the field. And yeah, it's fun to think about if we do get him kind of like that whole comp of the left side of the offensive line was kind of the strong side. Now this right side of the offensive line is going to just be these big maulers. That would be awesome.
And yeah, and the thing that's crazy too, he did not allow a sack last year on 419 passing snaps, only allowed 5 pressures.
Whew.
No QB hits. So this guy can play. This guy can play really well. Dodd saying too, like, yeah, he thinks that he probably falls right behind Paris Johnson, who's the left tackle in round 1 as well. So it's going to be really interesting out there.
One thing to note too with him, I mean, I completely agree with you. His draft stock is probably going to rise, but as of now, he's at the Chicago Bears second round pick. So that'd be nice.
There we go. There we go. So hopefully he stays. I hope that he tests terrible at the combine. Let's just pray for that. And I'll say too, like, Wright was my guy till we found the return of Big Cat in Jones. Yeah, like this would be insane. I'm excited to see what can we get out of him. Can we potentially get him? But definitely somebody to watch out for, just because the sheer size is going to be insane. But let's go over to the interior of the offensive line. Less overwhelming, but there's still some really top end talent that are trying to prove themselves out there. And really the person at the top is Osiris Torrance, interior offensive lineman out of Florida. He's a guard. Chances are not going to be around where the Bears are at unless they traded down like 2 or 3 times and got him in the 20s. But I actually don't have any of these people on my list of watching, but I want to just call out a few names. One is the center out of Minnesota, John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota center, regarded as the best center prospect out there. Right now, he's ranked as the 51st overall, but people are saying this guy is dominating. If there's one guy that's looking the best out there, they're saying John Michael Schmitz, the center. Like, and that's scary because they're saying now he could go in the first round. We need a center, and this seems to be one of those surefire centers you can plug and play, has a lot of positional versatility, was playing some guard, but also has scheme versatility. I'm also curious about Andrew Voorhees out of USC, number 62. I feel like he was ranked so high because of his last name, but now he's just been plummeting down draft boards as people watch him. And the last person is Steve Avila out of TCU. He played guard, but is now starting to play a little bit more center and has been looking good more in that 3rd round range. So if the Bears want to get a wide receiver in the 2nd round, Avila could be a good prospect that we pick up in the 4th or in the 3rd round to fulfill that center spot. PayPal, I kind of touched base on everybody, but
hey, yeah. Hey, I would love John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmitz as a potential draft guy for us. So I think that'd be a fun nickname to give him if we ever got him, because that's the two things we need on this line is center and right tackle. So it'd be fun to keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, and J-Rock also says, don't have Ricky Stromberg on the list. I don't actually. Let me look real quick. Yeah, I don't have him on the list, but another good
we definitely need 3 first-round picks, and that's where it's it'd be awesome if we do get the Texans, to trade with us, because then we could get at least 2 first rounds, and our second round pick is early enough, so maybe we could catch one of those first round talents in the second round. But yeah, consensus, we need to trade that first round pick and get some of these talented guys.
Yeah, and Ricky Stromberg is playing in the Shrine Bowl, not the Senior Bowl. Like, I get those confused all the time. Like, they shouldn't put them on at like similar times, like Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl. Yeah, same. so similar. But yeah, this is where I really hope we trade down to get some more draft picks, get some more of that draft capital. That's the dream. That's living the dream right there. But let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. We've covered the offense, and this is where we switch things up. Normally go with the D-line first. We're going with the defensive backs because this is so hard to watch, right? This is going to be something we cover later because it's really about the practices that are out there. And so just some of the big ones, and two, how many corners do we need? We're thinking maybe we get some more in later rounds, or maybe we pick some up in free agency, right? But no one too crazy. Riley Moss out of Iowa, or Tyreek Stevenson out of Florida, who's kind of ranked as the 95th. There's some just kind of middling. But if we go over to the safeties, this is, yet again, we don't really need a lot of safeties too. So that's where whoever pops. Because I think if we're going to do anything, we're just going to be signing somebody in free agency. But let's go to the interior D-line, because the interior D-line, this is where we need help, as we all know. We need some D-linemen, probably sign some in free agency as well. But there's some good players out there. I'm trying to see, too, if there's anybody that had really popped out there. I'm trying to remember. There's a couple, but PayPal, you have the people on this interior D-line. Who's on your list?
Yeah, the first one on my list is Siaki Ika. He is another athletic freak. I think this is another guy that you'll just easily be able to spot on this list. I don't know what it is. Something about like those Islander like D tackles I just love. They just got that extra strength. They got that extra not swag. They got that extra energy they bring on the field. And for such a big guy, you think, okay, he's going to be a run stuffer. He's been a fabulous pass rusher with 12.1% pass rush win rate. And surprisingly, like, people are saying he's a lot quicker for his a lot more agile for his 6'4", 350-pound frame. So he's like one of those athletic freaks. I kind of like the D tackle that the Bills have, and even Dalvin Tomlinson. I know we've been talking about him a lot. Where he's going to fill the gaps. He's going to take on 2 defenders and just help us tremendously with this D-line, who's just been awful. And two, he's one of those guys too. He's going to help the linebackers. He's going to take these blockers so then the linebackers have clean lanes to rush, whether it's the passer or attack the running game.
Yeah, one thing that I want to add on this too, because I do write up the graphics and I have some of the negatives, but yeah, like you said, great quickness for his size. The big thing I know I'm watching for is it good enough, right? Like, he just literally sidesteps someone, like jukes them out as if it's a basketball move, and it leaves them, on the ground basically at 358 pounds. So can he do that at the NFL? because it's different, right? Like it's a different style of move. I feel when I see him get where he needs to go. So very good player, former LSU transfer. So people were expecting a little bit more out of him this year at Baylor, but he did not perform at that level, even though he's a very good prospect. Overall, 39th. PayPal, you got another one. I'm going right back at you. You got the flag in the back.
Another Wisconsinite. What can I say? You know, pair him up with Jack Sanborn. Hey, and you know, with these Wisconsinites, you know they're going to be tough in that running game. They're going to be tough-nosed, smart players. And at 4th round, this is probably my highest round or latest round pick. I think, hey, great comp by you, Eddie Goldman. I think that's exactly what he can be. And we're talking, you know, first, second year Eddie Goldman. We're not talking, you know, the third, fourth years of Eddie Goldman, but another pretty decent sized guy, 6'4", 315. I think he would fit the 4-3 a lot better than Saika Ika. But another just very powerful guy. Seems like he uses his leverage a lot better than Ika. And I love that because you can always add size. Technique is something that is a lot harder to teach. So in the 4th round, I think this guy could be a steal, and watch out for him because he's also good in the pass rush. Like you think of Wisconsin, only good running game. He's another fantastic pass rusher at that interior spot. And I don't keep going, but it's something with that interior spot is you see how successful like someone like Aaron Donald or, you know, these interior guys can just, or Chris Jones, like wreaks havoc and make your defense a lot better. Not saying he's going to be one of those guys, but why being a good pass rusher in the interior is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and that's KEEANU Benton out of Wisconsin. And yeah, I think like with Benton, watching his tape, I was also like thinking Akeem Hicks a little bit, just with anytime that somebody abuses power against someone, like you just see him. I saw him on film just push a guy with one hand and he just imposes his will. 13.4% pass rush win rate. Yeah, just plays with high pad level. That's my biggest concern. And also just how does that power convert when everyone else is more powerful? So definitely somebody to watch. I really like that out there. And yeah, I was trying to find someone. It was late in the night last night, and I'm like, you'll see everybody starts getting comped to Bears later on as we go because I'm like, it's a bear. My brain can't work. So let's go over to the edges, our defensive ends, whatever you want to call them. I have them classified as edge, but also some of these players might play in the interior. One of those is Adubaware out of Northwestern, so maybe a familiar name. He's 111th, but he's actually turning some heads right now because of his size and speed combo, moving more on the interior. Some people love the idea of putting him at a 3 technique. So look out for him. He's not my official person to watch out of this, but this is another thing. The ends, and like the defensive edges, these guys are going to be, they have their work cut out against these tackles, but there's also phenomenal talents. Derek Hall, phenomenal player out of Auburn, 48th overall. Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, 30th overall. Some people have him as high as in the top 10 because people don't believe that he can do stuff against top NFL competition. I was going to have him on my watch list, but decided not to because I didn't think it was realistic that the Bears could get him. Zach Harrison, Ohio State. Keon White, another big player out of Georgia Tech that might be playing a D tackle. Byron Young out of Tennessee. And there's people I'm purposely leaving out because they're on my watch list. There's so many people in the top 100 that the Bears could be getting at this defensive end. But the first one I'm watching is Andre Carter II out of Army, 6'7", 260. The comp is Jason Taylor. I don't love that comp, but Jason Taylor is the only person that is close physically to him. just a physical freak. His biggest weakness, and I mean this in the nicest way, like, it's almost like this man amongst boys, right? But the man doesn't know how to play the sport. Like, when you watch him play, he just doesn't seem to know what he's doing out there, but he's so much bigger and so much stronger than everyone else that he just dominated. 21.4% pass rush win rate.
Wow.
Insane. Very, very good defensive end. Dominated as a pass rusher, but he's so raw. And the thing that makes me afraid is when Rashawn Gary was coming out, he was very similar. Bull in a china shop, right? Didn't know how to use his hands, just kind of bounced off of players and then wound up getting a play, right? But what he ended up doing was like the thing that gets me scared about Andre Carter is he's very upright. Doesn't bend, doesn't get low. Something that I just don't really like about him. And so far, people are saying he's not looking good. And that's why I really want to see what he's capable out there, because that's a guy that I never really liked, but I know people loved him. People had him in the first round. People had him as like defensive end number 1. And that's why I really I want to see him out there. How good is he? Because he's crazy explosive, crazy good athlete. Are people out there thinking, well, maybe we can coach him out there? So
yeah, hopefully he's not a Leonard Floyd. You know, Leonard Floyd obviously didn't have that
the size, the bulk,
the strength, the strength to him, but it sounds kind of like the similar, like, you need to kind of teach this guy actually how to play. And Leonard Floyd, I mean, after the years, like, he seems doing better on the Rams, but yeah, I love the comp, and something about having a guy from Army just sounds sick to draft, you know?
And one thing too that I'll add in as well is this is kind of a con that he is actually coming from Army, because before they had to serve. And now they're saying that Biden actually signed something so Carter could play, basically. So it seems like he's actually going to be able to play, but if he's not looking good, it's going to be sad, because here's the first Army player to be drafted in the first round, and now he's plummeting. So I really hope that he does well. It's always nice to see someone from a military school do well. So hopefully he can play, but he's really Andre Carter, physical freak. He's on the national team. But also, Donald's been talking about this guy. He loves Will McDonald. Will McDonald out of Iowa State, defensive end. He is on my watch list. This is where it was the last profile I put together. My comp I don't like at all, but I put it as Willie Young. I just miss Willie Young. Like, who else misses Willie Young out there?
Going fishing. He's probably fishing right now, you know?
I like to think Willie Young's out there somewhere, just with like 10 lines in the water, just fishing. But yeah, 6'4", 245. He's insane, and he is dominating. He is everyone's been saying he's the most dominant edge out there right now. He's a pass rush specialist, dominates on the outside, 16.7% pass rush win rate, 92.1 pass rush grade in true pass sets. So when he can just pin his ears back and run, this guy is a speed rusher. Flies to the quarterback. Reminds me, this is a bold comparison. Not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but when watching like some of the 85 Bears, how Richard Dent would just kind of like fly, right? Like fly around the edge. That's what Will McDonald does. He is speedy. He is fast. The thing that I don't really see, though, is I don't see a heavy usage of hands. I want to see a little bit more hand usage. Also used heavily on pass sets. So wasn't technically a starter, but some people are holding that against him because he's only played hardly over 500 snaps at that edge. But also, one of the things that I really want to see is he played a lot of the 4-tech and 5-tech. That's not like as the true outside of the tackle, played more on the inside of the tackle. If he plays on the outside of the tackle, that's really where he's going to thrive. So even though that people bill him as a smaller guy, he still was able to get a lot of production when he was at 235 playing a 4-tech, 5-tech. And in the Bears system, hopefully he's playing outside the tackle so you can really see him fly. I think that this guy is going to really impressing people with his speed and bend. So Will McDonald, watch him because
Yeah.
he's going to be entertaining as heck because you're just going to see this blur flash. And he's someone that we can get in the second round if we end up not getting like a Will Anderson. And Will McDonald can be somebody that really puts pressure on the quarterback. And he's a good prospect.
Yeah, I obviously like, yeah, there's the downside of him not being able to be like in run, like that every single down type of thing. But hey, like we saw the guy, I'm blanking on his name. I don't know if you remember the guy that was on the Lions, I believe, where
James Houston. Yeah, Houston.
Yeah, James, like, he just comes in, gets a sack, and then
that's
like
literally what I was going to use.
Because it's like, and we saw how dominant he was and how he could affect the game, even though he's in like, like 20 snaps or whatever. Like he's not in the game that much, but he affects it tremendously. And that's where it's like, obviously you want him to play in the entire game, but like that's when we could just put in a guy that's better at the run game, play that first down, second down type of thing. So I'm excited to watch this guy too.
Yeah, he's very, very good. Donald's loving him out there. Like I do too. Like you put on the tape, very good prospect that you can get in the second round. There's also, I will say, watching the edges, there's some really good edge prospects out there overall. And he's definitely one of those that you can get in that second round that I think that's where you're going to start seeing the ironing out of the boards and where do some of those prospects end up falling. But now we are at our final piece. And for those that have been watching, they might have seen the thumbnail. I said that I hyped this up. There's somebody who reminds me of Darius or Shaq Leonard right now because watching the tape, he is also impressing at practices because people are like, I can't believe how violent this guy is. I can't believe how fast this guy is. Tell you, it's not Henry 2020 out of Alabama, who's 59th, even though he is Henry 2020 is going to be someone to definitely watch out for because people have had him as a first round player and now he's falling. He's just like Voorhees, where he's just plummeting down draft boards. And now he's at 59th overall. But PayPal, can you guess who's on the list?
I think the way you're talking about him, I think I know who you're talking about because I remember watching the game against Alabama and this guy was kind of really like showing, I'm like, wow, that guy is a freak of nature. Like he's very athletic, but he's on a team that just can't ever win and put it together. Is it
you shut your mouth?
Overshown?
It is DeMarvion Overshown out of UT Hook'em Horns, linebacker, senior, 6'4", 224. So very similar. Like I said, my comp for him is Shaq Leonard. This guy, 6'4", he's got the size, he's got the arm length. That's where a lot of people are saying like he's got that comp size, like from a size perspective, he's got that. Why did Shaq Leonard fall in the draft? It was his size. It was the questions about him being able to shed blocks, but his strength, athleticism, plays violently. That's what he does out here. Also, former safety. I think that he can slot very well next to, say, a Jack Sanborn. Jack Sanborn, bigger guy, can kind of plug up some of the holes. Overshown is going to be really kind of popping. And people are saying, they're like, I know that the whole bill on this guy is that he's a safety. He's not going to be using his hands. They're like, this guy is violent. This guy is crazy. He got multiple sacks last year, and also his positional versatility. Last year, I think he played 400 snaps at the linebacker position, played over 100 snaps on the defensive line, and played over 100 snaps lined up as a slot cornerback. Yeah, you heard that right. Lined up there. That's where, to me, like, I really like this player in this Bears team. And he's projected. Here's the kicker, ladies and gents. Projected to go in the 4th round. So to me, if you can get him with your 4th round pick, take a flyer at him, right? He is an attacking style that kind of fits this system where he's constantly attacking. And I think he had like 4 or 5 sacks last year. He's known for being sent in as a blitzer because of his speed, because he can sidestep. He uses his long arms, gets right by running backs. They don't even stand a chance against him. That's where, like, when you put on the tape, why he's falling, though. Like, I'm hyping him up to be this Greek god, right? But where he does falter is when he is blocked. He gets pushed back a decent amount, doesn't anchor, and doesn't just kind of hold his own ground, does get pushed back a little bit. That's where he's always trying to just fight off, right? But hey, I like people that don't like being blocked. That's what this guy's doing. Has a hot motor. That's why, to me, I'm looking at Overshown, because this guy hits hard, plays hard. I want him on this defense.
Yeah. Hey, in the 4th round, if you get him, I think it's worth the risk that, hey, he's not, being physical in the running game. I think that's something that hopefully can be taught to him. Obviously, Nicholas Morrow, wasn't really able to learn that when he was on the Bears. But hey, I completely, he was definitely the guy I was thinking of when I was watching him against Alabama. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? He was just flying around, and he is a lot of fun to watch. So, and you think of the Nick, how Nichols just played a lot more in this game. So he'd be a perfect nickel linebacker, covering a running back and locking him down.
And here's something that I like too, is that he's not on the American team. He's on the national team. And the reason why I like that is because we have to game plan against him. He sees, Getsy is able to see, all right, when Overshown is out there, what do we have to do? How do we, he's going to be covering our running backs, and he's as fast as our running backs. I really like that he has to kind of game plan against them. The thing that I do fear, though, even though I'm just hyping this guy up like crazy, it's because he's a 4th rounder, right? If we get him in the 2nd, I'm feeling a little bit less excited about this, right? But reminds me a lot of a Brian Asamoah from last year, where yet again a smaller guy, but Overshown has the size. Asamoah, I believe, was a little bit shorter, was 6'2" or 6'1". So Overshown really has that size and the speed and the arms. So yeah, didn't see him track as well as I would like to, also just from a pursuit. So still has a lot to learn, but I'm curious if the Bears, with all their people from the Colts, they like players like this. Okereke, Leonard, they like tall, toolsy guys that they can then coach how to play that linebacker position. So that's where, to me, I'm like, I see him as a Bear. I see the Bears looking at this guy and going whew, we got to add him. The only hard part is this is where, man, can we just get 1 million picks? Can we just trade the first? And just my favorite mock drafts to do, and maybe we got to do this on a mock draft Monday or something. But I love trading multiple picks down and then just getting as many picks as we can, just to, especially in the first. Then you could get Jackson Smith and Jigba. You can get a lot of the other, you can get
the tackle we were mentioning, a lot of these guys we're mentioning, yeah,
you get Will McDonald, you get all these other players. It's a good win out there. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch this, but make sure to like and subscribe, everybody. We are going to be going live Sunday night, as always, at 7:30 to recap who won and who lost the Recess Senior Bowl. Not just the game. We'll also look at the practices as well and break it down for you to let you know who did well. Probably going to be less than an hour, but still, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure to also rate 5 stars out there everywhere you get your podcasts. Also, use promo code UNBEARABLE at betus.com for 125% back on your first deposit. Ladies and gents, thank you as always. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.